Hey guys, what is going on? This is Dragon, and today we'll be doing a little video for patch 6.17, which are based off the surrender at 20 PBE notes that they have currently as of Sunday. And they have a bunch of changes coming in for this patch, and like a lot of buffs and nerfs are happening, specifically to a lot of AD carries, and there are basically just buffs everywhere. Compared to the last patch, this patch is much bigger. But with all that being said, let's get started. So first up is going to be one of my AD carries that I main whenever I have to play AD carry, which is going to be Ashe. And she is getting these nerfs right here. Although some people might see them as big, I see them as very minuscule. But the Q nerf you see right here was a buff in 5.23 or something, around in the preseason, and this made her win rate go kind of high. But they also had another buff where her Q stacks now decay instead of just all dropping at once, and that's when I think she became super strong, although I'm not 100% sure, since it's been a long time ago. But 1 second off her Q doesn't seem like too much since it lasts for like 5 seconds, now 4 seconds. And now earlier ranks, her R's damage is going down by 50 at level 6, which means you gotta do 1 auto to make up for it. Well, actually probably less than an auto, but to me it doesn't seem that big of a deal. I mean, it still stuns for a very long time, and also they didn't reduce the cooldown on it, so in my opinion, I'm pretty sure she's still gonna be viable, but maybe play just a little bit less, and I think her win rate will go down by about 1.8% based on Champion GG's statistics. Alright, so next up is gonna be Draven, someone who has not been touched in such a long time. You know, the only reason I'm mentioning this is because I want to see the reaction when Tyler1 sees these buffs. It is also kind of surprising to see that he's receiving these buffs, but they're pretty small, let's be honest here. It's just the cooldown on his ultimate is less and the mana cost as well. So with these buffs, I don't know, probably like a 1% increase. Actually, you know what? Let's say 0.8. Alright, so next up is going to be Evelynn, a champion who is not really in the meta, but played by some players who have a fetish for her, and going like an AP heavy build where they build Proto Belt, Lichbane, you know, all these nuke items to kill people. And I've seen her before in solo queue, but not that often. But with these buffs, you know, reducing the cooldown of her ultimate by 30 at level 6, that's pretty huge. It just means this champion will have more pressure in the early game and cause a little bit more chaos. With these buffs though, I think her win rate will go up by 1.337%. And now the next champion we're going to be talking about is Ezreal. So every time he hits a level where he can get a point in his ultimate, his passive's attack speed bonus now goes up when he hits level 6, 11, and 16, which means his late game is a little stronger. And at level 16, this gives him about 30% more attack speed, which is quite a bit, but thinking about it a little more, you need 5 stacks of his passive to get 30% attack speed. You also have to be level 16, and his base attack speed is 0.625, which is pretty average. So with this buff coming to his passive, I think his win rate will go up by 0.8%. I'm also kind of hyped about this skin, even though, you know, I don't really like skins, but whew, is that Neku I see from The World Ends With You? You know, a great game. I really like the story. I wanted more when it ended and I got pissed off. And I was happy to see him in Kingdom Hearts 3D. So like seeing the skin makes me kind of want to buy it. But the thing is, I don't play Ezreal. Plus, I already have him on the PB, so who cares? Next up, we're going to be talking about a champion called Gangplank. Whoa, these are some nerfs that are going to hit him pretty hard. His hit point is going down by 40, which means less healing coming from his W. Also, the mana cost is being increased by 20 at each rank, and the ultimate cooldown is being increased by 20 at level 6 and 10 at level 11. And the damage per wave is lowered to 35 from 50 at level 6, and 10 less at level 11, and 5 less at level 16. And what all of this means is they're shitting on his early game. I mean, he's still probably going to be good in the late game, but his early game just looks like shit. Bye bye Tobias Fate, you're donezo when this champ gets nerfed. Of course, he's probably just gonna play Twisted Fate, but still, to me, these nerfs seem to make this champion look fucking garbage, and I'm gonna say his win rate is gonna go down by a whooping 5%. That is a huge number, but I think it might be accurate to what I'm seeing. It's probably just gonna be like 3%, but still, I think he's gonna drop down to the negative win rates. Next up, we have Fat Ass. This is actually a nerf that is pretty bad for him. So this fat ass's E's cooldown is going to 16 instead of 12 at level 1. Of course, if you put points into it, it lowers. And now his R has a fixed travel time which is going to be 0.55 seconds. And this means if you just put it under you, it'll take some time. I don't know how it'll look. It'll probably look fucking stupid, and I kind of want to check that out. But it didn't tell me what the time to travel was if you put it at max range, so I don't really know how this will hurt him when he does those long range barrels. But he can still do the ER combo. But you know, his E being increased by 4 seconds at level 1 is a pretty big nerf in my opinion, because this is the last skill you level up. It might be the second now, who knows, but that means he just won't have as much mobility. He can't CC people for 1 second as often as before, and yeah, I think it'll hurt him a lot. But anyways, I think his win rate will drop about 2%. He still has his Q, still has his W, he still has his early game like super strength, but it won't be as powerful, and there'll probably be a meta change for the junglers, and you'll probably see less of rek'sai and Gragas. Oh, spoiler alert, there's gonna be some nerfs coming to rek'sai. Next up, let's talk about Jace. Because this is a champion who sucks right now, but he's getting some buffs, but these are very like small. I don't think he maxed out E second, I think it's W, but I don't know. But I found it really interesting that now his R transformation gives 40% bonus AD scaling instead of AP scaling, so no more AP Jace, literally. But it's only 40%, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. Plus you're building armor penetration on this guy, and when you transform it does magic damage, not physical damage. So with these changes, he's probably going to get a 1.2% increase on his win rate. Alright, so next up, let's talk about Jhin, who's getting quite a bit of nerfs. Alright, so W's AD ratio is being lowered to 50% instead of 70%, not a big deal. Damage to minions and monsters being increased to 75% from 65%, and they're also nerfing his ultimate, so now it no longer lowers cooldown if Jhin has leftover bullets, which I don't think happens too often, but okay, whatever. And now the base damage is being lowered to 40 from 50 at level 1, 100 from 125 at level 11, and 160 from 200 at level 16, which is pretty high. I also didn't realize that the scaling on his ultimate's base damage was really good, so that makes sense why the armor penetration build was really awesome for him. But now the damage increase bonus coming from his ultimate is increased to 2.5% from 2%, so it's more of an execution, but I don't think that's enough to compensate for the nerfed base damage. And yeah, I think this is actually quite a big nerf, because I feel like Jhin ults a lot. Okay, usually I see Jhin in team fights ulting most of the time, and just sniping really far in the distance, and so in my opinion I feel like this will be hitting him pretty hard. His laning phase is probably not like screwed up or anything, but mid game and late game potential has been dumbed down a bit. And now, so I feel like his win rate will drop down by about 2.5%, maybe a little bit higher. I feel like he's still super strong, and his ultimate was just kind of just for getting picks around the map, you know, with the slow and execution. And usually there's always someone following up, so that person will probably die. But there are probably going to be a lot more scenarios where the enemy could have died if it weren't for this nerf. Next up, let's talk about Malphite, aka my new top laner. W's cooldown being lowered to 12%, I like that. But also his passive on his W is now being increased to 15% from 10% and basically 5% at all levels, which means more armor for Malphite. Also, people max out E and Q first and second, so this is going to be a 1 point wonder for sure. Anyways, I think his win rate will go up by 1.3%. It's pretty high, but it could be lower, so who knows. Next up is going to be Orianna, so I thought this is pretty interesting and it might make people play her more. Her ultimate's cooldown is going down by 10 at all levels, and the mana cost is being lowered to 100 at levels 11 and 16. Orianna is like a decent champion right now, but her win rate's actually being average around 50%, but with this buff, probably goes up by 0.7%. Next up is going to be Poppy, and she's getting a base movement speed increase by 5, which means she'll have a lot more movement speed when she uses her W, and now the passive armor MR bonus increase off her W is being increased to 15% from 12%, which isn't that much, but whatever. It's still nice to have. You know, I think she'll still be shit, but let's just say her win rate after this will go up by 1%. Movement speed buffs are always good, and you don't feel like it's good, and like you don't really feel different. But have you ever seen what happened to Janna's win rate when they removed her global movement speed passive? It was a lot, and you didn't really feel that it was a lot. But movement speed increased buffs are like stealth buffs. You can't feel it, but it's there. Next up, look who's getting nerfed. It's gonna be rek'sai. The cooldown on her tunnels is being increased by 6 at level 1. That's actually really big. I didn't realize that when I was making this infograph, but what the fuck, that's huge. I feel like you need to max out E now if you want to be useful with her, but it still hurts your early game so much because you're maxing out Q first. So this is kind of like the Gragas nerf, you know, less mobility, not as much as Gragas, but you can't make a good jungle farming tunnel system as fast anymore. And you know, the reason reason rek'sai is played because of her early game, and now that they're kind of shitting on it, plus her ultimate's cooldown is being increased by 30 at all ranks, I think she might be not in the meta anymore. It's very hard to say for me, but I mean, I feel like her win rate will drop by 2%. And in the high elo jungler meta, I feel like she won't be played. I don't know, she probably will, but I don't think she will be permabanned anymore. I don't think I'll play her anymore. I probably will, because I feel like everyone else is, but you know me, I'm a meta slave bitch, and I play what's good. Next up, let's talk about Riven. Oh my god. These buffs are pretty insane in my opinion. The base damage of her R is, okay, it's not that insane, but the base damage of her R is going up. The minimum damage is going up by 20 at rank 1, 30 at rank 2, and 40 at rank 4, while the maximum damage is going up by 60, and then 90, and then 120. So basically there's just going to be more execution for her, and she's actually pretty good right now, I think, in the top lane. I mean, you see her in LCS, you see her in solo queue, you see those Riven mains basically spamming her still. And I think with this buff, her win rate will increase by 1%. All the Riven mains will have an easier time executing their laner and probably puts more pressure on the enemy, and of course in team fights as well. Next up is gonna be Sivir. So they're nerfing her W, which means less damage, and they're nerfing the passive attack speed on her W from her ultimate. As you can see, it goes down by 10%, then 15%, and then 20%, so she's not gonna auto when she uses her W as fast as she used to. And I don't think she's gonna be, no, she's not gonna be meta anymore. You're gonna probably see shit like Jinx coming back in, maybe even Twitch or Vayne. But yeah, I feel like these nerfs will hit her win rate by about 1.5%, maybe a little bit higher. And finally, for the last buff is coming to Vayne. As you guys know, she got buffed in the last patch, or like buffed recently, but the AD ratio of her Q is going up at later ranks, so her late game potential is going to be super good, like way better now. And maybe you might see like a super AD carry build instead of like, you know, the old Vayne build with Blade Rune King and Phantom. Okay, you probably still get Phantom Dancer, but you know, Infinity Edge, Bloodthirster, etc. But her win rate is still super bad right now. It's like 47%, but I think with this buff it'll increase it by 1.5. But since it's still under 50%, it's hard to say. She still sucks ass in the laning phase, so that's why she's not as popular. And all of her counters are still there. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I want you guys to comment below on what is your favorite change as of 6.17, or, you know, a new thing. My favorite thing of this patch is going to be Arcade Ezreal, aka Neku. So that's pretty cool, and can Square Enix sue them for having a skin or character that looks very close to Neku? I don't know. But yeah, that's my favorite change or add-on for this patch. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did like this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you didn't, make sure to subscribe. Anyways, I am Panther Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.